Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. We have a very special show today with Jody Drake and the cast of Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past. Welcome to the show. Jody, will you introduce your cast members that are with us today?
Of course I will. Dear friends of mine, people I've worked with a lot. First, Peg Millett.
Peg, say hello.
Yeah. Hello. Okay. And then Miss Sherry Graham. Hello. And then my dear Pam. Howdy.
Well, we got a great cast here. And who else is in the room with us today that's part of our cast?
We've got Barbara, Krista, Sharon, Rich cast, all of these ladies we've had. Did I say?
Suzanne.
Suzanne. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
It's only 11. And anyway, all of these ladies I had the pleasure to originally meet in Stepping Off the Page.
Right, which was a great success at the Elks Theater.
And
about 2 years now, is that right? Year and a half?
But it hasn't died. It played here at the Sharlot Hall, and it's going to be at the Fippen in November.
And God bless Jana Bommersbach and Bob Bosbell for their book, Hellraisers and Trailblazers, The History of the Real Women of the West, which Stepping Off the Page was adapted from. And
it was.
We miss our good friend Jana.
So much.
Yeah.
I just every once in a while, I think I haven't talked to Jana.
Yeah. She was a Hellraiser and Trailblazer herself, wasn't she?
She was. They broke the mold with that woman.
They sure did.
But when we did that show together, we all really bonded as friends.
Well, it's great to have you here today at Sharlot Hall on Arizona Roundup. And we have something exciting to share with our listeners today on Arizona Roundup. And that is we are bringing back a October Halloween tradition. We know we're going to talk a little bit here in the first segment about when Sharlot Hall Museum, and I know, Jody, you were part of it from the beginning, had decided to look at the history books, look at the legends and the lore and the real history in Prescott and bring to the stage a series of plays and series of entertainments that happened in the last 25, 30 years here at Sharlot Hall. And this year it's come back as Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past, October 24th and 25th, 2 shows here at Sharlot Hall Museum. And so let's talk about the show. We'll get into the details of when the gates open and how you can buy your tickets, but let's talk a little bit what brought all of you incredible women together for this show for our patrons here at Sharlot Hall Museum.
My goodness, about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's a guesstimation. I've done so many projects, I'd have to go back in the logs of time to look at the exact date. But West Yavapai Guidance Clinic and the Prescott Center for the Arts came to Sharlot Hall Museum and said we would like to do a fundraiser and call it the Ghost Walk.
The Ghost Walk. All right. That sounds fun.
And so we had a ghost in each of the historic buildings. And I was given the task of finding different true occurrences in town that had turned into ghost stories. And then that became the real key to this whole project, is these were stories. So stories aren't actually historically impeccable, but they have this endurance that goes through the ages, such as Angelina Hoagland, the little girl out at Lynx Creek. They have been telling that ghost story since 1889. It's all over the internet. It's a captivating story.
Well, I think that's what's exciting about this show is you be able to bring back these stories. And we know that these stories at the heart of storytelling going back thousands of years that have inspired, everything going all the way back to the Greeks and before.
It was the way history was passed down through story form.
The oral tradition and stories, and then matching it with historical figures. So when people come to this show, they're going to really experience something that is remarkable and has such a local flavor to it. And I think that's why we're excited, Jody, that you were going to lead this troupe of fine women in this performance and putting this show together.
This is one of my favorite forms of presentation is storytelling, because you're not acting off of a script. You're not saying the words of some author like myself. Mm-hmm. You're taking a true occurrence and the mystery that happened around it and bringing it to life. And is it actual fact? I don't know. Have you seen a ghost?
Right.
Can you prove that Sharlot Hall doesn't walk these grounds?
That's right.
I have to honestly tell you, I prayed to meet Sharlot Hall. There's not a building on these grounds that I didn't spend the night in, hoping to see some glimpse of Charlotte. Not once.
Right. But we know that her spirit is here. And let's go around the table a little bit and ask each of our cast members here at the table to tell us a little bit what drew them to participating in this, in our Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past.
Well, I'm speaking as Peg, and my friend Jody here and I have been, we've known each other for over 40 years, and I live far away from town, and I don't get to town very much except for to work. But I'm a total drama queen, and I'm also a singer. And so Jody talked to me about doing stories, and I also was involved in the stepping off the page as the songstress, or one of the songstresses. And so when she asked me to tell a story, I tell stories. I tell stories in front of audiences. And so I have an interesting life. So I get to tell my stories, but now I get to tell a story from a rancher that lived here and who was traveling from Prescott to Wickenburg. So I'm really excited to be able to flesh this out and give her a life and bring her story to people.
Peg, that's fantastic. And can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, I'm
Sherry, thanks for coming on the show today.
Sure.
And Sherry, we're very interested in finding out what brought you to the stage here at Sharlot Hall Museum.
I started my stage stuff at Prescott Center for the Arts. And I met Jody, gosh, not very long ago, Jody, not even a year. And she cast me in Murder at Prescott Junction Pass. Let's get it right. Anyway, and that's when I met Pam. I've done some acting. I've been in Prescott about 30 years, so I love all the stories of Prescott, whether they're ghost stories or not. I tell stories too, whether I have an audience or not. Jody is a very interesting director. She pushes and she pulls, and not in a bad way, but in a way to make us stretch. And I really like that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to this, and I am going to be telling the story very bad.
All right, Sherry, I'm looking forward to hearing that. And Pam, what brought you back to the stage at Sharlot Hall Museum to be part of Portraits of Fear?
Well, it came down to basically I am more afraid of Jody than I am of any ghost. When she says, come, I come. But much more than that, I've always felt that that was the time period I belonged in, perhaps lived in, the late 1800s. And my story is going to be about a ranch mother. And I often think about what it would be like to be so lonely and not to have the comfort of other women and to go through the births and the deaths. And there is no more strange things that can happen in our very hostile environment we live in. And let me tell you, we promise plenty of death, mysticism, and a whole lot of madness.
And it's very interesting. Pam's piece is a piece that Sharlot herself wrote. Sharlot Hall, which most people don't realize, had an extremely dark side. And I'm also doing a piece by Sharlot Hall called When Summer Rains Begin. And Sharlot wrote probably a dozen pieces of very mystical, haunting tales. But when we get to the bottom of them, what creates a haunting tale?
Well, with that is a great segue for us to take our first break and thank our sponsors for Arizona Roundup. And we'll be right back, and we're going to learn a little bit more about the mystical nature of the nights coming up here at Sharlot Hall Museum on October 24th and 25th.
For over 45 years, Blind Brothers Arizona has been the heart of window style in Prescott. From blinds, shutters, drapes, they will custom design and install with expert precision, tailored just to you, whether it's for your home or your office. You can trust the name that locals rely on. Visit blindbrothersarizona.com today or call them at 928-776-1845. Once again, that's 928-776-1845 for a free consultation. Blind Brothers Arizona, the original since 1979.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. And we're having a wonderful conversation here with Jody Drake and the cast of Portraits of Fear, A Journey Through Prescott's Haunted Past, an original play by Jody Drake that's going to be performed here at Sharlot Hall Museum in our auditorium on October 24th and 25th. This is part of our Twilight Tales series. Our gates open at 4:30 p.m., both on Friday and Saturday, October 24th and 25th. Tickets are $25 a piece. They can be purchased at our website, charlottehallmuseum.org. That is Charlotte with an S, S-H-A-R-L-O-T, charlottehallmuseum.org. And we are really looking forward to this weekend of haunting tales and this original play. Jody, we just had a very nice introduction to cast members. Can you introduce our next cast member who just joined us here at the table?
Yes, this is Suzanne, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about her character.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Welcome. Glad to be here. I'm going to portray Angelina Holden, which is a young woman that's been a young child, actually, that quite a mystery and haunting behind her. I'm going to do tremendous research on her because I really don't know. I'm not familiar until I really get into her and what she was really like.
And I'd like to interject, this isn't so much a play. I've asked these ladies to come in and learn how to be storytellers. And there's a big difference between a play and a storyteller, because a storyteller's aim is to invoke every sense you have.
Well, I love the fact because, you and I have had many conversations about storytelling.
Yes.
And the importance of even your story matters. And what we're saying here about the men and women that are going to be portrayed in Portraits of Fear is we're emphasizing, we're putting a exclamation point on the fact that their stories matter and that we're retelling these stories and recasting them in a way that today's generation can appreciate what each of them went through during their lives, whether short or long, whether important or nearly forgotten. And I think that that's a great emphasis, Jody, that you're bringing to the table, that this is an evening of storytelling.
Yes, and it's the thing about these stories is they're surrounded in mystery. And whenever you get anything that's mysterious to the human mind, then it has to become outerworldly.
Right.
And when you look at Prescott, Arizona, there is a ghost at St. Michael's. There is a ghost at the Palace. There is a ghost at the Hacienda. There is a ghost in just about every downtown older building that you can think of. I have never in my life heard so many ghost stories as when I started this project.
They prevail throughout the town. And my sister will tell you, and we actually had a conversation with a woman who we think probably stayed in the same room. My sister has promised never to stay in the Hacienda again. She loved her experiences there, but it was in a room which they woke up. My mom and her were staying in the room, and the drawers were open in from the bureau. They were closed when they went to bed. And recently a woman who was here for Doc holidays stayed in the same room, and the drawers were open in the morning, closed the night before. And so
now, if you really looked at it, it would be fascinating to come in from a scientific level and say, that's a very old hotel.
The room,
Perhaps
yes.
could the floor of the room settle to the point with a certain amount of weight, do the drawers come open again? And I will give you a little example. About the second year that we had done the ghost walk here at the museum, several places around town wanted to be included. So could you put a ghost where we are? This is a hard admission for me, but it's a true one. So we had a ghost in Hotel Vendome.
I've heard of the Vendome.
Mm-hmm.
It's legendary.
Yes, it is. And that ghost got sick that night and didn't show up. So Warren Miller said, Jody, I need you to go over to the Vendome and be the Vendome ghost. And I said, Warren, I don't know the story. He said, I don't care, make it up. So I went to the Vendome and I completely made up the sick lady with the cat scratching at the door. The husband for what medicine never came back. And it went out on CNN. And about 2 days later, I get this call, Jody, this is Robin Leach. And I go, yeah, right, Parker. And I hung up. A couple of minutes later, the phone rang. Jody, this is Robin Leach. Please don't hang up on me. And he wanted to talk about the Vendome ghost. I turned purple. I didn't know what to say for the first time in my life. So I talked Robin into going to Jerome and doing the story of Sammy Dean. But that just shows how something can get started and go like wildfire. And I remember I was so mad at Warren. I go, all these years I've spent to be an honest, factual historian in costume, in props. You've tortured me. And now I finally get a little bit of fame and it's a made up story. And now I'll probably get sued by the Vendome, right? So it just shows us how easy it is for a factual story to turn mystical.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And I think that we all, Peg, tell me a little bit about where were you from growing up? What was your childhood memories of this season of October? Where was Halloween for you growing up?
Well, I was born in Flagstaff, and I was raised down in Scottsdale area, Phoenix. And we used to tell stories to each other that were very scary. And I remember we did a lot of trick-or-treating when I was young, and I was living in off 68th Street in Thomas, if anybody's been down there, Phoenix area. And we had a great deal of fun.
It's a great neighborhood.
Yeah. And I was there, my mother lived there for 57 years. She died in 2016. So that neighborhood was mine, and that was where we used to do our, and then we had a big field. There was an old theater that was a drive-in theater, and we used to go out there and sneak in and get the speakers and put them down the ground and listen to the movies and stuff because we were on foot. But there was also great big fields around there, and we had a lot of fun scaring each other and running around doing crazy shit.
I love that. I love that, Peg. Sherry, how about yourself? What tell us a little bit about where you grew up, and if you have some Halloween stories to share from your childhood.
Well, I grew up in the middle of Kansas.
Sharlot Hall did as well.
I know. And we just had fun at Halloween, and I don't remember ghost stories, but I remember trick-or-treating where little old ladies made beautiful food, popcorn balls and everything.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have it all wrapped up. And my dad always made the trick-or-treaters come in and tell who they were. I made them take off their mask and everything. But anyway, so it wasn't ghost stories for me, and I find them fascinating.
Yeah, that is great. And and I love that's one of the reasons I think it's fun really to hear everyone's different traditions about this time of year. Pam, I understand you're from the northern tier of the upper Midwest. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and your Halloween traditions.
Yes, I am from Minnesota. So what we did when we went around trick or treating is we bobbed for apples. And because it was so cold, there were a lot of kind people that let you come in and sit at their round table, kind of like the one we're at now. And they'd give you hot cocoa and cookies and warm you up a little bit before they send you out again. Basically, our biggest Halloween traditions, of course, were turning over outhouses and paper, toilet paper. But toilet paper costs so much now. I don't know what they use these days. But and then there was always in your neighborhood the scary house where some old
yeah,
and the stories that you told about them, and that was enough to scare almost anybody. So we had wonderful, wonderful Halloweens and great memories.
Suzanne, how about yourself?
Yes, I grew up in Wisconsin, and I had this haunted house down from where I lived. And it was a big mansion, and I remember dressing up and with my brother and going down. But we were afraid to go to the front door because we always thought there would be a goblin behind that door. And we would see lights flashing in the house, and we actually thought that it was haunted. And I thought, well, what's the background on this? It was quite large, 2-story, it seemed like it was many windows with ghosts looking out through them. And that was our imagination. But maybe something was really going on there, as we grew up. Very mystical in my upbringing. I always saw things beyond what there was. But I had an experience at the Elks Theater where I saw a shadow going up the stairs to the back of the stage. And I go, oh my God, there's something over there. And there's experiences all over. I've had experience throughout my life and different mystical things. And maybe it resulted from that haunted house in the corner where
I love that. I love that.
May I ask you a question?
Jody, you're going to ask me a question?
Is there anywhere in the museum that you're afraid to go?
Anywhere in the museum that I'm afraid to go? That's a good question. And
or not afraid, but just uneasy. Somewhere you go where you just feel a little uneasy.
All right. I'm going to answer that question after this break and leave people hanging to fear my answer. Hold on. We'll be right back on Arizona Roundup.
Since 1995, Helkin & Horn Ad Agency has helped local businesses stand out and succeed from print and radio to websites and social media. You see, their talented team crafts your brand's message and offers a plan to get it out into the community. Do you want results backed by 30 years of experience? Visit AZAD, that's azadagency.com, and do it today. Helkin and Horn, where their slogan is Be Known.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And I am having an amazing morning, not afternoon, still morning here in Prescott, Arizona, on Arizona Roundup, as we talk about Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past. Now, Jody just asked the question, our director and creator of Portraits of Fear, is there a place on campus at Sharlot Hall Museum that I find intimidating? That after the lights go out, if I'm on campus by myself, where would I not tread? Well, I do think that if the lights were out here on campus, I would be very careful to listen in the Bashford House, in the Fremont. And I think the governor's mansion holds a lot of mysticism on this campus. And I think that it would be a place that soon after I started working at Sharlot Hall Museum a little over a year ago, someone said to me, well, do they require all the governors to sleep? in the governor's mansion at least one night while they're serving the state of Arizona?
Whoa.
And I thought, well, what about directors? I'd spend the night in the governor's mansion. But if I have been in this building when the lightning has struck nearby and the thunder is surrounding the campus, and you can look out the window and see the trees swirling in the winds and the clouds swirling, and you're not sure, how close those winds and the lightning are going to come to the building. And suddenly the elevator is out and the alarm is going on and the lights are flashing. And I did come upstairs and I found a door open to the roof. And you can at times in this building sit here and you're like, is someone out there? Is someone out there? And you swear that someone has come up the stairs or the elevator is opened. And if you're attuned to it on this campus, you will feel the specter of those in the past. And I truly believe that Sharlot is on this campus, and she keeps, she's an angel to us all here as she's keeping an eye out on things. She doesn't prevent bad things or good things from happening, but she's here as a guide. And I truly believe that. And there's a great author, Max Evans, who passed away just a couple years ago from New Mexico. And he said, Stuart, you need to make yourself aware. Be ready for mystical experiences. And, that's each of us has to open ourselves up to that. And he says, if you're open to it, and ready for it, it may present itself. And so I think that all of you, as I'm learning today, as you're reading your parts and diving into the stories of these men and women of the past of Prescott, you're going to bring a level of mysticism to this show that's personal, because you're working hard to understand who these men and women were. And it reminds me a little bit of great book by Edgar Lee Masters called Spoon River Anthology, which
that's a ghost story of mine.
Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We were doing Spoon River Anthology here at the museum.
Love it.
And we had a very large moon on the old Blue Rose Theater in the middle of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about 1:00 at night. We just got the new fog machine and I'm dying to try it out. So I fill the room with fog and I turn the moon on, bring the lights to a deep red. And I'm sitting at the back of the theater and a shadow crossed across the moon. And it's just like, okay, good night.
I love it. Now, Jody, I haven't asked you yet, and you and I have talked a little bit about your childhood, which is growing up and I think for many of you, although, Peg, you grew up in Scottsdale, I grew up in North Hollywood, California, which is probably the complete opposite of Sherry, Pam, and Suzanne. And probably yours too, Jody, because you grew up in the greater Prescott area, but I bet your Halloweens weren't always in Prescott. Were you in Mayer or in down on the Verde River? Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a combination of everything. Prescott Halloweens were very much like Pam's, ladies that would bring you in and with big cotton balls or homemade pumpkin soup, hot chocolate, and the valleys up on Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon has always been this just incredible Halloween spirit, even when I was really small. And then out at the Drake Rock Quarries, they would just sit around the campfire telling ghost stories that would scare the shenanigans out of you. And I'm sure you know this story. Monk Maxwell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. An old cowboy.
Great cowboy.
Monk was a good friend of mine. I was raised with him. And there was a young man that was mentally challenged, and his family was up from Phoenix, got lost in a snowstorm. And Monk had been working on the ranch all day and got a headache in the middle of the day. Came in and said, I got to lay down a little. I got a headache. His wife said, well, Monk, that's not like you. He said, I know, but I just got a terrible headache. And Monk laid down, and Monk himself told me this story. He said, I laid down and he said, just as clear as day, I could feel the snow hitting my face. I could feel the sting of the cold on my lips and the fear in my heart about this child being alone in a snowstorm. And clear as day, I saw him in a line shack. And this is not even the search area where they're looking. So Monk goes out, saddles his horse, gets on the horse, rides out to this line shack, lifts this piece of tin, and here's this child huddled in the corner in shorts and a t-shirt.
Wow.
He couldn't.
That gives me chills.
Yeah, it does. And Monk to this day said, every time I tell that story, the hairs on the back of my neck stick up. And there's several stories like that through Prescott's history of just mystical things. But where do we divide mystical from ghostly?
Right.
When we say ghostly, it implies a hint of scariness. Fear. Yes.
Right.
Fear. Portraits of
something
fear.
we don't completely understand or are not ready for, or just straight out fear.
Exactly. And as far as this campus, my office was in the Sharlot Hall building. And in my office, there's a trap door that leads down into the basement. One night, it's late at night, and I think, I gotta go check that out. I lifted the door and I went down the steps, and they're really steep and the ceiling's really low and it stinks down there. And I got down and the door closed and I couldn't get it back up, and I panicked for a minute. And from that time after, I didn't like to go down there. And I know it was just because I kind of panicked over the door closing and the outside door was locked, and I thought, I'm trapped in the basement. And then my second one, in the House of 1,000 Hands, the Sharlot Hall building, the dimensions of the fireplace do not match the dimensions of the building. Bobby Fields and I both believed that behind that fireplace, there's a secret little room.
How about that?
That at some point got walled in. Because if you walk around the Sharlot Hall building and then you look at the fireplace, it doesn't match the building.
Well, and it's that's the mystery behind the men who built that building, right? I think that's a great mystery.
Or did Charlotte have him put that room in because of her past fears of Indian attack? Who knows?
Right, an escape room of some sort.
And if the thing that makes me wonder is the dimensions just don't line up. Have you ever walked around?
A little bit, but I'm intrigued to go back over there and check it out some more.
The dimensions just don't match.
Right.
The building is square.
Right.
The fireplace is round and it's not in the corner.
Right.
And there's a big place behind it.
Right.
Bobby would never let me climb up in there and see if there was a window up high in the thing. But
Scooby-Doo, where are you?
I thought about sneaking it a few times, but I might have been afraid of what I'd find back there. Maybe Charles Lummis.
Well, we're going to take one more break and come back and talk some specifics and talk a little bit more about Halloween, but also this special night at Sharlot Hall Museum, 2 nights. Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past, coming up October 24th and 25th at Sharlot Hall Museum.
At Foothills Bank, they're not just about banking. They're about people, community, and building futures. Whether you're managing personal finances, growing your business, planning for retirement, or buying your dream home, their friendly team is there to guide you every step of the way. Stop by your local Foothills Bank today. It's more than just banking. It's a partnership for success. Foothills Bank is a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And we are here today with Jody Drake and this wonderful cast from Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past. And we've been sharing some great stories. We're having a storytelling day today. I thought that maybe we'd just talk a little bit more about the show. It's going to be about an hour, and both nights on the 24th and 25th, the gates open at 4:30 p.m. Tickets are $25 a piece. You can purchase your tickets at charlottehallmuseum.org. We're expecting this to be sold out. You should get your tickets as soon as possible. But I really think this is the beginning of something larger here. You know, the Twilight Tales, this is the second year. Sally Jackson, our director of development, helped create the Twilight Tales as a new form of evening entertainments here. And I'm really excited about this weekend at Sharlot Hall Museum, Jody, and your participation in it, and then bringing together this great group of talented women, talented storytellers, actors in all their own rights, with their great past that they're bringing to their characters. Is this the beginning of more of this? Should we expect some more in the future?
My life right now is doing some really incredible turnabouts. There's some things I'll share with you at another time. I've had the opportunity to open a small museum on the ranch. And ranchers have been coming forward, just giving us stuff beyond belief. A lot of stuff.
And the name of that ranch, Jody?
The original name of the ranch was the Mayberry Ranch. It's now the Blazing M Ranch.
And this is up in Cornville or Cottonwood?
In Cottonwood.
Cottonwood, all right.
But the land dates back 12,000 years. It's a remarkable place. And just through the kindness of the old ranchers, people have come forward, and it's just been a remarkable experience. We had our first school tour last week, and it's just been amazing. So I'm not sure where my future is going right now.
Well, I think that all of you are participating in something that's so important. That's keeping our heritage and history alive, bringing your stories to the table in this format. And as you all know from my position here at Sharlot Hall Museum, but also as editor of True West Magazine, and my interest in storytelling, is that this is really what starts to bind our community together and helps inspire the next generation. Pam, you've been very involved with education at the Western Heritage Center, where you and I have served on the board there. Talk a little bit about why this is important from an education as well as community.
Well, obviously, it's important to pass down these stories to the future, to the children. And in storytelling, it's a much more interesting way to learn something than from a book. It's just the kids just eat it up. I mean, they love it, and it's something that they'll remember. And that's the importance, is passing down the history. The one important thing I would like to add to this is that we are really hoping that some old Prescottonians will come to our shows, because we want them to share some stories. And you don't have to be an old Prescottorian. We will allow you to come up and tell your story and to share it, because that's what all of this is about. So buy your tickets.
Thank you, Pam. I emailed you a little while ago or texted you or something. I said, I'd like to take a time in the show where we offer the opportunity to the audience to share some of their exceptional stories. So we're going to try about the last few minutes of the show to open it up to the audience, and we'll come right to you with a microphone.
I love that. I love that. That it really makes it dynamic, and it's kind of in many ways something I've experienced since I was a small boy out at the Orm Ranch is the campfire circle, where you feel safe. It's a community that comes together. And that's the feeling I'm getting here today, that we are calling in the campfire circle at Sharlot Hall.
That's a beautiful way to describe it, the campfire circle, because that was the whole concept. I told these guys, I don't want you to memorize a script. I want you to learn these stories, and then I want you to spit them back out with your own sense of the story. And I'm really excited about the project, just because I love the people I'm working with mostly. And of course, the Sharlot Hall Museum, next to my husband, children, and religion, is right up there.
Sherry, do you have something you'd like to share?
I was just thinking that we might very well hear some news stories from particularly the older Prescottonians. There's always something we haven't heard.
You know who has some great old ghost stories? Mr. Cordis.
Oh, yes.
I can remember as a child him scaring the pants off of me. Remember the story about the hook?
Are you talking about Kelly?
Yeah.
Or his?
I know.
His
but I
dad,
remember,
Cal, or his Uncle Henry?
Oh, that's right. It would be Uncle Henry. Yeah. But I remember being told that story, and that night, my dad and I were sleeping in a Fairlane Ford because we'd gone out to Cordes, and I was in the back seat, and all night was sure I could hear a hook coming through.
Oh, man, I totally
And the next morning, I get up and I look out the door to see if there's a hook.
Yeah, we scared ourselves pretty silly with those
Oh,
stories, didn't
Lord. Or at Angelina's. That was the big thing when it was a teenager who was brave enough to go out the old Black Canyon Highway. And then as soon as you'd shine your flashlight on the gravestone and it would glow, we'd all scream and run.
So in Los Angeles, if you go up Laurel Canyon and Halloween, and you come up from the valley and down as you're going down the hill, getting closer to Hollywood, there is an intersection. On one side is a very famous country store. And if you turn right, the road will take you up, look out to the top to look out all over Los Angeles. But across the street from this old country store, right there in Laurel Canyon, is the former location and the foundation of Henry Houdini's house.
Oh.
And it was the police were always trying to keep, and the neighbors want you, because people every Halloween flock to the foundations of Henry Houdini's house. It's and even in the big city, you're going to find, we had one house in our neighborhood in North Hollywood that was, the guy never had the lights on. He
You
took
know where
the grass
that Prescott house was? On Mount Vernon, on the
Oh.
right-hand side, that big old mansion.
Mhm.
There were two sisters that lived in there, and they never. So you used to say, they keep children in the basement. You know? Cross the other side of the street, because if they get you, you'll end up in the basement. You know?
My friends and I would always be afraid of the headless horseman. And we would have a campfire in the woods, all of us, very young, mom and dad as well. And we would always tell these stories about this headless horse galloping. We could hear him galloping. Oh my God, he's coming, he has no head. And we used to then play costumes.
I was the headless horseman. I used to be a counselor at the camp over at Mormon Lake. And I got to be the headless horseman one night with a big black gelding and scared the pants off of every kid. And the Hispanic kids that were in at the camp that year were completely traumatized. I had no idea that it was going to really, really, really scare them that bad. Yeah. At the time, I thought it was really exciting.
Used to spend our summers at Verde Hot Springs, Childs.
Oh, yeah.
And one of our favorite things was to go over to the hot springs, and there were a bunch of people there, tell them a ghost story, and then leave.
Well, we're going to have to come back, get all of you back here around the table and keep telling stories. And those that you can tell at the campfire, those you can tell throughout the seasons, and celebrate storytelling. And we look forward to all of us enjoying Portraits of Fear, a journey through Prescott's haunted past. Here are the Twilight Tales at Sharlot Hall Museum, October 24th and 25th. And please go to charlottehallmuseum.org to purchase your ticket today and get ready for an evening of mystical fright and stories of the past in Prescott. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.